Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira, and I wanted to invite you to like our Arnold Ehret Facebook page if you haven't done it yet. And the reason that I kind of got inspired to do this is we are almost at 2,000 likes. We have 1,998 at the time of this video, so I'm doing a little push and saying if you're on Facebook and you haven't liked our page yet, go on ahead and like the page. And just to kind of give you an overview, I have several different fan pages, and they all have different characters. I've tried to develop them so that there's different information going out on all of them, and just sort of so it's not just the same stuff on all of them. So the character of the Arnold Ehret fan page here is really just kind of a daily inspirational kind of place where there's a lot of the best Arnold Ehret quotes, and I think it's good for educational purposes because you can kind of really focus on and meditate on particular quotes, particular things that he says. And I also will circulate some of the blog posts that are about Ehret's work and other things relating to Arnold Ehret. People post up personal testimonials or videos about Ehret's work or their experience on the Mucusless diet. I like to post that up here oftentimes, and so that's the overall character, which is different from, say, the Professor Spira fan page, which it focuses a bit more on some of the pus and mucus cultural analysis things and just things that are on my mind a little bit more. But so here in this Arnold Ehret, not only all life but all culture in the better sense proceeds from the stomach, thus speaketh the stomach. This is very interesting and I would almost say unprecedented work in the health arena, because people don't. It's very unique and artistic in terms of creative writing. As Ehret takes on the voice and channels the voice of the stomach and writes from the perspective of the stomach, and that's a very it's a very artistic kind of conceptual way of writing. But I find that kind of approach real effective. It just makes you think a little differently. Like, if our stomach could talk to us, what would it say? Thing is, it tries to talk to us all the time. We just ignore it and don't listen, and so that was a recent post from not too long ago. Tony made a video about raw mucusless salad that he had developed. The more we learn about natural laws that rule and govern our health, the less we need fear the destruction and onslaught of disease. Arnold Ehret, Mucusless Diet Healing System. So that's basically what's going on. I get quotes from other people that have wrote about Arnold Ehret, like Fred Hirsch. I'll do a lot of that kind of thing, testimonials that come up. Memes. These people like to share these, and I encourage, if you do like the page, I encourage you to like as many of these as you find worthy of liking, and share it, because it really does help a lot. It helps get the word out there, spread the consciousness, spread the good news of healing and this level of understanding about human diet and health. This is really, I found it to be one of the more powerful ways, because when you share something or like something in these social medium spheres, people are it's an interesting marketplace of ideas, this Facebook phenomenon, because there's some people that are here and they don't want anything heavy. They just want entertainment. But there's a lot of people that use information and sort of expanding their consciousness as a form of entertainment, as a form of kind of sort of an enlightenment of sorts. And there's a lot of people that are open to some of this information, and the way it's presented here is it's not too hardcore, you know, and it's not it's just some higher level consciousness, and when people sort of see it and it makes sense to them, sometimes you never know when something's gonna click with people. That's something I've really learned, especially as an educator, it's somebody that's been interested in trying to promote the Mucusless diet for years. You just never know when somebody's going to get that aha moment. There's no way for anybody to orchestrate and sort of create a situation where that's like scientific, where people will always get an aha moment based on, you know, some kind of scientific way of presenting the information. It doesn't work like that. Education doesn't work like that. It's an art form, and each person is very different. So each person sort of responds to things differently because it's based on their past experiences, their past understanding of what they go through. You know, when I'm talking to people, I like to try and sort of plant seeds in their consciousness just by saying things a certain way that will disrupt the normal dialectic. You know, I mean, you can really disrupt the diet if you're in a conversation with somebody and then you start talking about diet. Immediately, you've already corrupted the normal discussion the way it's supposed to go. Because if there's a, yeah, man, I'm about to go to McDonald's, and then you're like, well, I don't eat at McDonald's. At that moment, you've just disrupted what was supposed to be a very normal conversation, and that person has already learned something, you know. But now you take it to the next level. Then before you know it, you're talking about the diet, and then when they start asking the same questions that everybody asks, like, why do you get your protein? What about this? You're like, well, I don't believe in the protein theory, and here's why. And if you've studied the history of it and you can articulate yourself fairly credibly and clearly, then it's not about trying to convince them at that moment of anything. It's just about being to articulate yourself and your ideas in such a way that it sort of disrupts the normal way of communicating and thinking. And if the person is halfway conscious, they almost can't stand it but to look into it. You know, go do a Google search, and now they're looking up Ehret, and they're looking up the Mucusless diet, and if they're super smart, then they buy a book, a copy of the Mucusless diet, and read it for themselves. And that's the way this information has to go out like that. This is not it's not like a lot of these other things that I see that become really popular and followers. It's a lot of things that become popular based on charismatic leadership and that the sort of the guru principle. And this isn't that thing, you know, and I didn't want to try to develop this like that. You know, for me, this is about the work. This is about the practice. This is about real results, a real understanding of revolutionary information that has changed the lives of millions of people and will continue to change the lives of people. But people first have to understand it. And that's been my job, or the job that I felt like I've tried to take it on, is let's really look at Arnold Ehret's message and his work and see if we can understand it. Why did he write what he wrote? You know, a lot of people just think, because I've tried to focus on certain aspects of Ehret's work, but they think that I just would automatically agree with everything. I don't agree with everything that Ehret said. That's a conversation we can have sometime. It's I agree with the majority of what he had to say, and then there's certain things that I've tried to build on, as we all should, where if we can start with what Ehret had to say and then kind of build on that, because that's what Ehret did. He tried to bring his peers and contemporaries into his work and his discussions. Unfortunately, sometimes when he did that's some of the stuff that ended up being a bit weaker, because Ehret was so far ahead of his time and his peers, that to even bring some of their stuff into conversation, and there's aspects of his work that kind of suffered from that, I think. And I talk about that in Annotated Mucusless Diet. It's one of the discussions that I get into. So it's definitely not that kind of thing that some people think that it is, where they look for that. They're like, well, is this just somebody that's just agrees, and the group of people that's just blindly following Ehret? Like, no, it definitely is not about that. If anything, out of all of the groups and the fads and the raw foodists and the fruitarians, out of all of those groups, the people that are into Ehret and that sort of are coming by way of the work that I've put out there, we're the most free thinkers and critical thinkers out of the bunch, that have the ability to analyze objectively and have the courage to do the work on ourselves and then report back our results, to say, well, this, I tried this and this is what happened, or ask questions if after you have done some work. You say, okay, well, I did this and then this happened, so what do you think about this? And then the community begins to revolve around people that are doing the work. So it's not about what I see in some of the other groups and sort of subsets of the plant-based diet world. It's more about everybody agreeing in a particular belief system. And it's to some extent where it's almost more about the belief system than it is about the eating process or however you eat. And I won't necessarily get into a bunch of examples at the moment, because I don't want to get this too deep. But anyway, that went on a little bit farther than I thought it was gonna. But yeah, Pythagoras. This is an interesting quote. Out of Physical Fitness Through a Superior Diet. Pythagoras, an important mathematical genius, vegetarian, and founder of the high-standing school of philosophy, went to Egypt to learn about the secret sciences of that country before he was allowed to enter into the school of the learned, called high priest. At this time, he had to undergo a fast of 40 days under supervision outside of the city, believing that this was a test of his willpower and energy. He was told this 40 days fast is necessary in order that you may grasp what we will teach you. Now that is a college. That is an institution of higher learning that Pythagoras went to. Because imagine a college where, in order for you to get in, your application consisted of a 40-day fast that was monitored. So go into the fasting hut and fast, and this was probably a dry fast for all we know, but a fast of 40 days. And like, imagine a college of people. All the people in there had to do a 40-day fast before they would be admitted into a college. Now that, my friends, is an institution of higher learning. Not these things we at pathetic things that we have out here where instead of a 40-day fast to get in the social tradition, kind of outside of the realm of it's like not directly related to the school, but it is, because it's embedded into the culture in the way that colleges work. But the instead of a 40-day fast, you're dealing with the 40 beer binge night, the drunken stupor, what's that thing we used to do where you put the beer bong, you put this big funnel up that has this like big this big hose. You stick it in your mouth, and then somebody puts like 2 or 3 cans of beer in it, and you drink it within like 5 seconds because of the gravity, and there's no air, and you suck it down. I mean, that's college, you know, in the United States. That's the you know, how you get in. I guess that's, perhaps you could say that's not technically required to get in, but that's what a lot of people identify with and look forward to in their college experience. You know, going to try to look for a bunch of stimulation. And so just what I'm saying is look at the level of consciousness, and what are we trying to do? You know, are we just out here just to play games and try to you know, to not to be crude, you know, but get our rocks off and you know, get fat, happy, you know, be amused, be entertained. I mean, is that, and then when the pain comes, be medicated. I mean, is that really what we want? Is that really what time it is? Or can we do better? Can we really, really transform ourselves, eradicate disease, make it so that word doesn't even resonate? With my children's children, I don't even want them to be able to conceive of disease. And I think that's possible. It's very much possible if enough of us get serious, get ourselves together. That's another thing I don't see enough people talking about, the long-term strategy. Everybody wants to do everything immediately. Oh, I'm gonna dry fast for a month this month. Yeah, well, have you transitioned? Well, you know, I'm really clean. I think I'm clean. I've been mucusless for a month. I've done 2 or 3 enemas. Think I'm ready to dry fast, or I'm ready to water fast. It's like, man, do you understand how sick we are and how much work we have to do? Just you gotta strike this balance of being intense and sort of steadfast to work, but at the same time you have to be gentle with yourself and understanding, and sort of invest yourself in the long-term strategy. There's really not a rush, but that's what's kind of hard even as an educator to convey, because on one hand we can't wait around, you know. So when I say that there's no time to waste and wait, we can't wait around while somebody's making a decision. The decision has to be made sooner rather than later. This isn't the kind of thing where you have a month or 2 to sit around and you read the Mucusless Diet book, and then you're trying to decide if you want to go down that path or not. I'm saying you can't. That's not where you have time to waste. You need to commit, in my opinion, much sooner than later. Commit to the lifestyle, commit to the transition. But once you've committed, you don't have to break your back trying to do these extended fruit fast and long-term water fast and all that kind of stuff. Commit to the transition diet and really study, read the transition, read what Ehret had to say about fasting. You can always do longer fast. You can always be more aggressive. If you want to learn how to be more aggressive, send me a message. I can lay out some things for you that you've just never imagined would be something that you could do physiologically, and it probably would be too aggressive for you. But that's not the thing. It's not a competition on who can be more aggressive, who can fast the longest, all of that. This thing is about who can transition most eloquently. That's what impresses me. I love to see eloquence in the transition. You know, I love to see when people really figure out nice ways to to sort of experiment with the concept of transition, ways to get to transition in and out of fasting periods, whether they be short term or they be longer, ways to use cooked mucus-free foods along with the mucus, raw mucusless, or even how to remain eloquent if you step back to some processed vegan foods and then you come back and you fast away from that and you never go back to those things again. I mean, there's so much that can be done within the context of the totality of the transition, and that's what I want to see. People get so excited about the transition, and it's starting to happen, but there's still not enough excitement. I mean, I've been in the diet for almost 13 years, and I'm still excited about this. I'm still excited about the transition. You know, I've done long fast. I'm not excited about that. You know, people love for me to talk about like the 6-month long juice fast I did and all these kind of things. That's not what gets me excited at all. The long fast to me are just it's a result of cleaning yourself up. It's a result of doing an effective job with the transition. And so for me, it's just not even really impressed by it anymore. It's not something that I look at like, oh, wow, that person is doing a long fast. What impresses me is somebody that really gets the transition and they have a story to tell about how did they transition into that longer fast? How do they plan to transition out of that fast? You know, how did they transition from eating McDonald's every day to being able to sustain a couple weeks raw mucusless? That's what I like to see. You know, I like to see a lot of transition, and what a lot of people do is they try to skip over the transition, and so they'll do like the guy. I think I need to watch those that new video, maybe do a review on it. But there's the Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead Part 2. Somebody just told me about that. I think I'd watched the original one, but not the second one. But somebody's saying that the guy was starting to have trouble as he had lost all that weight and stuff, but it was kind of like, and he was trying to tell people about juicing and healing and stuff, but he was sort of not doing as well. You know, he had returned back to, I guess, to eating some bad stuff or whatever. And his story is the story of thousands of people that try to deal with juicing. You know, they'll do some kind of long, like 3-month long juice, and they might lose a lot of weight, and that's great. But what I'm saying, my message for those people is, at this point, learn about the transition and the mucusless transition. I would say I'm more a fan of getting into the mucusless diet transition versus the staunch raw foodist piece. Because with the raw foodist piece, you will get stuck on eating the most mucus-forming raw foods that are available every day, and you deprive yourself of having the opportunity to use cooked mucus-free foods, which in my opinion are much less dangerous, much less constipating than the other foods, the foods that are the staples of the staple mucus formers of the raw food diet. And I think there's an individual now in the Professor Arnold Ehret group that was a fruitarian for years, but I think they ended up getting some cancerous tumors, and that kind of tells a story, because pretty sure that wouldn't have happened if they had been totally mucusless. But being fruitarian isn't enough if you're eating a bunch of seeds and nuts and seeds and avocados and any other kind of large quantities of other fatty fruits and stuff like that. I mean, that's not going far enough. And so with the transitional, and this is just it's so hard for a lot of people, I think, to understand this. And I wrote this to somebody the other day. I would rather, in a lot of cases, I would rather see somebody take a step back to processed cooked vegan foods, like a soy burger. Oh dear, no, Professor Spear, not like a soy burger, nature burger, something like that, than to eat avocado. That's blasphemy. I could be excommunicated from the raw to something that I'm not even, I'm not even a part of that, in that. But that's like heresy from that perspective. But there's a reason for that. Because with the Mucusless diet, we're concerned with elimination. We want to see things that go in and eliminate relatively quickly. Now, if you've been practicing a diet for years, processed vegan foods are not something that you should eat, that you should really be eating anymore, and that's probably not going to eliminate well. But in the beginning, if you understand that it's not something, if it's like a last resort and you're really craving something crazy and you just need something, then that's when you grab that kind of thing. It's a last resort, but it's a resort that you have access to if you practice the Mucusless diet. Way before a lot of the processed items, you had satine, or however you pronounce it, which is, instead of soy-based protein, fake meat, it's wheat-based. And there's a couple times in the transition diet where that's mentioned to say, throw that in there. If you need a little something, you need a little punch, throw that in. And just by all means, get off of dead animal flesh, get off of meat. And this is not something that you're going to eat for a long time. But again, it comes back to the system. The system will if you apply the system, you will always disrupt any addiction that comes that you get into. So even if you go back to something like some kind of processed vegan thing, when you do your 2 to 3 day fast, which you're supposed to do periodically all the time, you get it. If you're regularly doing these 2 and 3 day fasts and you're regularly doing some form of colon irrigation, then you will constantly disrupt that addiction, and you to the point where you really don't even allow that addiction to take hold for a long period of time. You get to the point where, as you get cleaner and cleaner, then you no longer crave those items. Or if you do go back and eat those items, it makes you feel so terrible that you never want to eat it again. And that's what's happening with a lot of the folks that are really practicing the system, yet they were sort of coming from an avocado-based diet, and they try to go back to avocados, and it makes them so sick. That's exactly what's supposed to happen, because avocados are supposed to make you sick. If you're clean enough, avocados are not going to digest well for you if you're clean enough. And it's not, and there's, of course, I don't get into that argument, because then there's people that say, well, your digestion isn't working properly. It's like, no, it's just once you get cleaner, your body does not handle fats well, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. In particular, doesn't have anything to do with not having a great digestive. I mean, that's the same thing that somebody would say, that's if you get off of meat long enough, you really can't digest meat anymore because it's not natural for us. Our body goes back to being able to digest plant-based material, and we just can't do meat anymore. Well, it's the same thing with avocados and that sort of that much fat. We get to once you get off of it long enough and you transition away from it, you can't handle that anymore. We're not designed to digest that. If you want to be able to digest that stuff well, then you can't get too clean. You have to maintain a bit of filth in you. If you want to stay. And some people decide that they don't want to get that clean. They don't want to go that far. I respect that. I'm cool with that. But I like it when people understand and they take full responsibility for what they do and where they're at. And I've had different people tell me, like, look, I don't necessarily want to go all the way and be that clean and get to the point where I can't eat stuff that I want to eat. It's not the way I would go, but I respect someone that at least takes that responsibility, because when they get an illness or a disease, they know what it's from, and chances are they know what to do to heal themselves. They might kick themselves that they didn't take things a little bit more seriously early on, so they didn't have to wait so long and they didn't have to kind of go through some of that stuff. But you know, it is what it is. So anyway, just wanted to have a nice little chat with you guys and encourage you to like the Arnold Ehret page here, and we're gonna have some fun on some of these pages. You know, I created a bunch of new memes. I've worked on some of these, and people like these a lot. These different, where I put the pictures up and have a quote. So we are moving forward. Time to take things to the next level. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and I will talk with you later. Peace, love, and breath.